What's up, Moto Fanatics? I'm Kris Keefer. This is RacerXOnline.com, of course. And guess what? Shocking. We're at Glen Helen Raceway today. 2024.5 KTM 250 Factory Edition. So, I have ridden the 450 Factory Edition, but most of that time was spent back east in Georgia, feeling that bike over there on the different types of terrain and dirt that they have back east. You guys complain to me, Keefer, you're always at Glen Helen, you never go back east. We have different specs over here, our dirt's different, so the settings should be different. You're right, it is different over there. We're working our way back there to give you some more settings, but right now we're gonna test this KTM 250 at Glen Helen because updated frame, updated suspension specs, a Kropovich muffler, of course, it looks great, orange frame, graphics, and all the little things, that different wheels, spokes. We're gonna talk about all of that. If these changes for the 0.5 Factory Edition makes a difference compared to your standard 2024 frame. I haven't been that kind to the new KTM frame before this, so I'm excited to actually ride this frame on this bike at Glen Helen where it gets edgy. You got to open up your corners, you got to cut across the bumps. So hopefully KTM made a little bit more of a compliant chassis for us guys that liked the older 2020, 2018 chassis, right? Those chassis for me out here on the West Coast were really compliant. I love that bike a lot. So looking forward to see if this is a step in the right direction. We're gonna get back to you here in a minute. I'm gonna get my kid, 145-pound, hyperactive teenager, B-class kid, likes to rev. We're gonna get his opinion, we're gonna get an old man opinion, and we're gonna debate a little bit on the KTM, give you some information on if it's better than the old one, and give you some comparisons on some Japanese models to this bike as well, so stay tuned. All right, guys, wrapped it up here. 2024.5 KTM 250 SXF Factory Edition. That is a mouthful. Holy crap. Brought my son, Aden Keefer, 18 years old. 145?
I weighed myself the other day. It was 143, so we dropped
145. We're rounding up. All right, so I feel like Aden is the perfect candidate for this bike. It's a newer Factory Edition. So things that are different from your standard 2024. We're getting the Factory Edition split triple clamps. We're getting updated suspension. We're getting an orange frame. We're getting Red Bull graphics. We're getting a skid plate. We're getting new engine mounts that are cut out. We're getting an updated frame. We have updated wheels. We have orange hubs, orange sprocket, Selle Dalla Valle seat that will rip your butt apart if you're not careful. So stand by for that. Grab the bag balm. You guys know the drill. Otherwise, the connectivity unit is really, really beneficial. You guys can purchase the CCU for your older bikes. That is possible. So I know that email is about to float down to me. But yes, you can do that, but you will have to purchase the CCU and then mount it. There is a new mount area on the front fender. You will have to get an updated front fender if you want to do that. And also, if you guys want plastic for your KTMs, you're going to have to go through an authorized KTM dealership because that is what they do now. You can't just go buy aftermarket plastic. KTM wants to own that area, so that's what they're doing. All right, so the big news here is the frame, right? To me, last year's, mostly on the 450 side, it was stiff. 250, I didn't feel like it was that bad, but when you go up in CCs, I could feel like it was more rigid, more deflective. The edge of tire contact feel wasn't as good. And that's what was really nice about the 18 and 20 frames, especially out here in California where it's edgy and square edge. I wanted compliancy. I wanted comfort. I wanted to have tire contact patch. And slowly but surely, that was getting stiffer and stiffer. a la Supercross. I think those guys wanted a stiffer frame. Well, now here, us normal weekend warrior guys, it's too stiff for us. I have a hyperactive teenage B-class kid, and I think even he doesn't like the newer style frame because not as much compliance as a Japanese frame. All right, so we're going to hand it over to this guy. I'm going to ask him some questions, and hopefully he can guide you if you're looking in an area specifically on what this thing does good. So I want to make it really easy for you. 18 years old, right? So bear with me here. Frame, you're very familiar with the older frame. We've had conversations on ride home after testing just saying, hey, it's too stiff, I don't like it, especially here in California. You spent time in Georgia as well. I've spent time on the new Factory Edition 450 in good dirt, and I think it's much better. So where are we at on the updated Factory Edition frame for the 250 SXF?
I am going to have to say, I do like this new frame.
Where do you like it more?
For example, here at Glen Helen, rough downhills, charging into bumps, I feel like bump absorption is better. It's more compliant. Edge of tire, I feel like it's softer for some reason than last year's frame. Last year's frame felt stiff. Edge of tire, I didn't really like it. It just felt skatey. It just felt super skatey.
So what we call in the world of tire contact patch, like if you just rub the dirt lightly on the ground versus digging it into the ground. I feel like this Factory Edition frame is more compliant when we're leaning the bike over. So before, some deflection, I'm not telling you guys this frame is the cure-all, right? It is going in the right direction. There is more bump absorption now when you're on the edge of tire. Slap down landing, there is more comfort there. For whatever reason, I feel like there's a little less vibration from this frame as well. All right, so moving on. So we talked about the frame. You ride a Japanese bike with an aluminum frame quite a bit. You ride Glen Helen quite a bit. Now you're hopping on a steel frame that has changed. Where are we at between the two? Is it close the gap? Is it better? Where are we at?
I would say my Kawasaki frame does have more compliancy, more bump absorption. I feel like it's a little bit more predictable too. Than this frame has gotten better compared to the previous frame, but I still think it needs a little bit of work in that department. For example, you'll hit a bump out here at Glen Helen, and one time it'll kick you a certain way, or it'll do something else the other way, or it'll be completely fine. So that is something.
So basically, it's a little bit inconsistent compared to an aluminum frame.
Yes, it's a little bit more inconsistent.
Okay, so for me, I would have to agree on that a little bit. Aluminum frame is a little bit more compliant. It has a little bit better of feeling. But this has closed the gap, especially if you're coming off from an old 2024, 2023 steel frame. This is going in the right direction. I, on the other hand, am a little heavier, so I feel like it's not as inconsistent as it is for Aden. So for me, it is going in the right direction. And what you guys can also do, if you guys want to put these new Factory Edition engine mounts on your old frame, that will work as well, and that will also help the slap down feel, or just that first initial bump touch that comes with riding hacked out tracks at times. Especially if you guys are on the East Coast, you have really tall, soft bumps. These engine mounts will come in handy for you on your old frame. So kudos to KTM for noticing, hey, we got to back that frame rigidity off a little bit, and now we're going in the right direction. Let's move on to the engine. And, well, let's talk about this. Cornering for me on a KTM, I feel like the KTM has a lightweight feel. I do think the front end is a little vague just with this air fork. For me, I would like a spring fork just to get more contact and edge of tire feel inside of the rut. But the air fork has come a long way, guys. Like, it is not the worst fork out on the market right now. I have been riding with some other stuff lately that's spring fork that is not as good as this air fork. For me, again, this bike invites you just to do certain things that other bikes don't, which I like to do. I think I need to stand up more, so this kind of makes me stand up more. All right, we're going to do 3 things. Okay. We're going to make it really easy and quick. 3 things that you like about this Factory Edition.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is the frame. I really like how this new frame is. It's compliant. Bump absorption is really good.
Just not as good as the aluminum,
Yes.
but we're getting there.
But we're getting there. I'm talking about this bike right now. This is what I like. Throttle connectivity.
To the rear wheel.
To the rear wheel. I do like this more than my Cowie.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. So that is important, going leading into the engine part of it. It is a very linear, smooth power with this Akrapovic slip-on. So Akrapovic, more mid, more top, but then there's more just a smoother roll-on, which Aden is talking about connectivity. The Kawasaki is really exciting and jerky off the bottom, but it doesn't have that connectivity like this bike does.
It doesn't have that connectivity. Plus, it doesn't have the mid to top that I feel like as this engine has.
Yeah, and that's right. This is more of an engine built for mid to top end, higher revving. If you like to rev, this bike will reward you. Not to say that it doesn't have bottom end. It does, and it'll pull you out of a corner. I just think considering a 250 power, I'm 170 pounds, there are better, more front side engines like the Yamaha and the Kawasaki than the KTM. But if you're looking for rear wheel traction, I agree with Aden. Like, there is a lot of connectivity within this package. Last thing, third thing, what do you like?
I like the clutch. I like how snappy the clutch is. It's a Brembo clutch, and the Cowie has a Nissan clutch. So that is one of the first things that I noticed when I hop on this bike is how snappy that clutch was.
So when he refers to snappy, it's the bite of the clutch, the grab. The Nissan might have a longer throw. This is maybe a little bit narrower, so it has more punch. I personally don't really care for that. I like a smoother throw, but he is a little bit more aggressive than me, and so he likes that bite, which probably will give him some more punch, some more bottom end. So for me, I prefer a Nissan, but nonetheless, I appreciate a hydraulic clutch, especially on the Brembo side with KTMs. They never fade. I never have to bleed them. There's no maintenance involved. So for me, I think that's really good. Overall suspension for me, I'll get with Aden here in a minute about it. You're just going to have to go a little bit stiffer on air pressure when you get this bike. 170 pounds. He had to go a little bit stiffer on air pressure. He's more aggressive. So here's the weird thing about KTM. They use the same oil level height for all MX models across the board. So, which may be okay for 250s, but you start climbing up in weight a little bit. Obviously, 350s and 450s aren't that much more in weight. But I like to raise the oil level 10 mil, and then drop the air pressure. That gives me the holdup with the extra oil, and then dropping that air pressure gives me a little bit more comfort. With this, with the standard oil level, you're going to have to go up to 10. What'd you go up to?
So stock is 10.3. We went to 10.5.
Yeah. So 10.5. I even go up to 10.6. But then I back out the compression a little bit, 104 millimeters on the sag, and then that gives you a nice flat feeling. Not a lot of pitching. I don't know if you noticed that or if maybe you didn't, but for me, there is still a lot of comfort to be had within suspension. Coming from a spring fork, obviously KYB, now you're on WP Air. How are we comparing?
I would say I would still honestly prefer the KYB fork. Obviously, they've come a long way with this, but same thing. It's unpredictable. Compared to my KYB fork, I feel like lean angle, I can trust it more compared to this.
How is like big slap down? Because I feel like when you're on an air fork, you have a lot of holdup. Can you just over jump some, and how does that feel?
Yes, it actually, honestly, when we went up in air pressure, I still haven't even used all the travel. So on slap down, it does feel a little bit stiffer when we went up in the air. But at first, it felt springy. It felt super springy for some reason.
Like springy as in fast.
Springy as in fast.
Yeah.
So, for example, today before a start straight at Glen Helen, there's just 3 rollers, and when I'd slap down on it, it'd feel like it would rebound up really quick.
Yeah. That's just something when you do and you get air pressure, it's going to snap up. So you guys can actually back out the compression a little bit when you go up in air. Quick thing about the KTM connectivity app. Very interactive. Better than the Kawasaki app. I would say as good, if not maybe a little bit less than the Yamaha Power Tuner app. I like it because it's very easy to use. It's user-friendly. I'm going to create a video over on my YouTube channel, so you can go check that out. But what we did for Aden was complaining about, hey, man, it's a little bit too smooth. I want a little bit more front side and some more bottom end. So what we did, and I'll talk to him here in a minute about it, we turned the engine braking all the way down. And I'm telling you guys this, 450, 250, doesn't matter. You want a drastic feeling motorcycle, draw that thing down a little bit, and man, it becomes really free. Your front end will not dive. Your fork setting will actually change, so that is a huge difference. And then we also made it more aggressive for you. You wanted more hit. So engine braking down, aggressive up. How do we go now?
So yeah, very beginning of the day when I rode it, at the bottom, it didn't have as much bottom as my Cowie, but this thing pulls far, man. And then once we used the new app, turned it up, man, this thing, it honestly, it surprised me about how much it actually did to the engine, which actually very surprised me.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and play with that engine braking, and I think you guys will really enjoy the power delivery if you're looking for some more power. Overall ergonomics for me, very flat, easy. It is a little bit of a wide bar. We talked about that. We like anywhere between 800 millimeters to 803. We're working on 811 millimeters, so you guys can cut down that a little bit if you guys need to. Or you can just go to Renthal Fat Bar or a Pro Taper bar and get a little bit different bend. It is a pretty flat, low bend. I'm 6 foot. Do you like the bend?
I do like the bend, yes, but I don't like how wide it is.
Yeah. So you can cut that down really easy. A couple features that I really enjoy from a factory edition to a regular KTM is the split clamps. You'll get more comfort. These engine mounts, you're going to get more comfort. And for me, the frame does actually make a difference. That's going to be up to you. Obviously, the cost is another $2,500 compared to the standard 2024 model. So it's quite a bit of money, but honestly, with the muffler and the frame and the things you're getting with this year, I think it is worth it for me. If I'm going to be competitive and I want more comfort, yes, I do think it's worth it if you're buying a new bike. 2025 is just around the corner. We're going to be talking about those in about a month because KTM is always the first one to come out with new bikes in May. So most likely the 2025s will be what you're looking at minus the orange frame. So I love these factory editions. I like riding them. We usually turn our 2024s into KTM, and then we get these factory editions. I'm going back east in a couple weeks to ride the factory edition 450. I'm excited about that. To me, that is a bigger difference in frame character versus the standard one compared to this 250. It is a little bit better here, but as you go up in CCs, you will notice more comfort and more of a difference on lean angle traction. So that pretty much covers this bike. One thing I want to mention before we wrap it all up here, KTM is one of the best at making a bike very durable. Clutches last a long time. We have good chains. Transmissions are good. Cranks are good. KTM has come a long way with reliability, and for me, they are probably the leader in overall, like, I'm going to hop on my bike and ride it and just change the oil. Aden had a KTM for a very long time. We barely had to work on it, and we just changed the oil and we rode it. Never had to change a clutch. So if you guys are looking for a no fuss, no muss bike, you hop on this thing and you don't have to worry about just change your oil and go. Anything you want to say before we leave here? Orange Brigade.
Orange Brigade, but I will say this bike does look sick.
He's right. I didn't even talk about the looks. I love orange. Orange has been my favorite color since I was 9 years old, and the orange frame just does it for me. I love an all-orange seat cover with the black side panels. I think it's one of the better factory editions that we've seen in a while.
I think it is one of the better ones, yes.
Just be sure to use some padding or chamois for your butt on this seat, just FYI. Don't forget, you have some questions about this factory edition, Kris at KeeferInkTesting.com. I'm happy to help you out. Sometimes we don't get to everything in these videos. Otherwise, it'd be an hour long. That's what the podcast is for, or you can go to my website for a written article. Whatever it is, our door is cracked open for you to ask questions, and we're here to help you guys. If you're a younger guy watching this, Aden, A-D-E-N, at KeeferInkTesting.com is his email. Hopefully, his high school diploma will allow him to type properly back to your email account. I hope. Hopefully its public school system works. I don't know. 12 issues, $30. Racer X magazine, something a little bit different than the online portion. And you get a free gift, so that's very cool. And we hope to see you right back here on RacerXOnline.com next week. We'll have more new bike videos. We're going to do a Husqvarna. We're going to do gas. There's all kinds of stuff coming. Maybe, just maybe, we'll do a shootout again. I don't know. It's a stretch, but we may do one, so you never know. Stand by. We'll be back next week. See y'all.